NATO urged Russia to stop provocations on Ukraine border. Ukraine's army said that a serviceman was killed on Saturday when separatist fighters opened fire with small arms, while another soldier was fatally shot and wounded on Monday. On Thursday, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the eastern front line, speaking with soldiers in the trenches. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba is due to meet with NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg on Tuesday, with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also heading to Brussels for talks. Russia must end this military buildup in and around Ukraine, stop its provocations and de-escalate immediately, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg told a joint news conference with Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba. The leaders were speaking ahead of the extraordinary meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Commission, which was called to prepare NATO's response to a possible surge of violence after the latest Russian military movements. According to Stoltenberg, recent weeks have seen the largest massing of Russian troops since the illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014, because Russia has moved thousands of combat-ready troops to Ukraine's borders. Russian military forces at the Ukrainian border have to withdraw, he stressed, adding, "We are seriously concerned by the ongoing developments, and NATO is monitoring the situation very closely." NATO continues to support Ukraine, Stoltenberg noted. Ukraine doesn't want war, Kuleba highlighted, asking practical support from NATO. "We do not and will not lose time, and should Moscow take any reckless move will start the spiral of violence," Kuleba explained. He also said the extraordinary meeting was meant to avoid the mistakes in 2014 when Russia was ready to act swiftly and pursue its military goals in Crimea and Donbas, while our Western partners were considering their reactions to what was happening on the ground in the past 3 weeks. The Russian military has deployed 2 armies and 3 airborne formations to western regions in a move that has worried Ukraine. It has also provoked the ire of NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg, who described the deployment as unjustified, unexplained and deeply concerning earlier on Tuesday. Shoigu said the Russian exercise was provoked by what he said were efforts by the United States and its NATO allies to beef up their forces near Russia's borders, threatening Russia. "The troops have shown their full readiness to fulfill tasks to ensure the country's security," he said. Russia-Russian separatists and Ukrainian forces have been locked in a conflict in eastern Ukraine since Moscow's 2014 annexation of Crimea. Also on Tuesday, the White House said U.S. President Joe Biden had voiced concern over the Russian buildup and called on Russia to de-escalate tensions during a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Both U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg were in Brussels on Tuesday for NATO talks. In separate discussions with Ukraine's foreign minister, both expressed strong support for Ukraine. Russia has moved thousands of combat troops to Ukraine's borders, the largest massing of Russian troops since the illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014, said Stoltenberg during a news conference. Over the last days, several Ukrainian soldiers have been killed in eastern Ukraine. Russia must end this military buildup in and around Ukraine, stop its provocations, and de-escalate immediately. Amid the recent tensions, the U.S. has also notified Turkey that 2 U.S. warships will sail to the Black Sea on April 14th and April 15th and stay there until May 4th and May 5th. The U.S. Navy ships have made regular visits to the Black Sea in past years, vexing Moscow. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov denounced the latest deployment as openly provocative, adding, "American ships have absolutely nothing to do near our shores. They are testing our strength and playing on our nerves," Ryabkov said in remarks carried by Russian news agencies. Seeing itself as the queen of the seas, the U.S. should realize that the risks of various incidents are very high. We warn the U.S. that it should stay away from Crimea and our Black Sea coast for its own benefit. Ukrainian government troops have battled Russian-backed separatists in the country's eastern Donetsk and Lugansk regions, which form part of Donbas, since the rebels seized a swath of territory there in April 2014. While the ceasefire halted full-scale warfare in the area in 2015, sporadic clashes never ceased and fears of an escalation in hostilities have mounted in recent weeks amid renewed frontline clashes and Russia's reported mass deployment of military units close to Ukraine's eastern border and in the Black Sea region of Crimea. Russia says the troop movements pose no threat and are merely defensive, describing them as preparation for regular drills. Moscow has also said the military units would remain there as long as it saw fit. Ukraine is an ally of NATO, but not a member. In recent weeks, Kyiv has urged the alliance to hasten its membership, saying it was the only way to end the conflict in Donbas, while Moscow has warned against such a move. NATO has told Kyiv to focus on rolling out domestic reforms and developing its defense capabilities, in order to be considered for membership. Al Jazeera's Natasha Butler, reporting from Paris, said the comments made clear Kyiv believed current support from NATO did not go far enough. What Ukraine wants is the full backing of NATO, she said. It would get that as a NATO member, and in that way would feel that Russia would have to stand down and stop what it calls threats to its sovereignty.